The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. If you try it, you will often be lonely and sometimes frightened. But no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. Friedrich Nietzsche. This is the core conflict of the modern world, to be accepted or to be free. We are constantly encouraged to be ourselves, yet rewarded when we conform. From a young age, we learn that pleasing others ensures safety, while dissent brings risk. That's why so many people feel smothered, even when surrounded by others. Have you ever felt like you were playing a role? As though you were performing on a stage, smiling for applause that deep down means nothing. This video is a wake-up call. Are you truly living your own life, or merely fulfilling the expectations of others? Are you being loyal to your core, or are you collecting masks just to feel included? If at any moment you've felt trapped by other people's opinions, the time has come to break free. And maybe for the first time, take a breath as someone who chooses to live on their own terms. The invisible prison, shaped from childhood. From our earliest years, we are taught that a smile from others means approval. A look of disappointment signals we've done something wrong. Every reaction from parents, teachers, and peers becomes a tool for shaping us. Unconsciously, we begin relying on these responses to build our sense of self. When we comply, we are praised. When we oppose, we are reprimanded. Over time, this process solidifies into emotional conditioning. We become addicted to pleasing others. Childhood teaches that love equals obedience. Teenage years reinforce that being accepted means fitting in. And in adulthood, this need becomes ingrained. We seek validation at work, in romantic relationships, and even from strangers, as though our worth only exists when someone else confirms it. This cycle constructs an invisible prison. There are no physical bars, yet fear looms, fear of disappointing others, fear of being perceived as wrong, fear of rejection. That's why so many abandon their own aspirations, just to avoid critical judgment, as if living authentically were somehow selfish. But true selfishness is demanding someone erase their identity to fit into someone else's mold. Most of us care too much about what other people think, place an exaggerated value on social approval, and suffer from an irrational fear of disapproval, criticism, and rejection. Richard Taylor. As long as this dependence remains hidden, it will continue to steer our most private choices. The most tragic part? This control operates silently. Most people don't even realize they are being directed by unseen forces. Living under the gaze of others is not living, it's performing. And no one was born to be a mere actor in their own life. The age of appearances and the social stage. In today's world, the hunger for validation has reached dramatic proportions. We live in a society where how things look often matters more than who we are, and where being noticed outweighs the importance of simply being. Social media has turned into a stage for the ego, where every like feels like a small round of applause that feeds a fragile illusion of self-worth. And the more applause we chase, the more we become trapped in the persona we created to be liked. To be deemed successful today often has less to do with inner peace, balance, or meaning, and more with showcasing visible markers of status. The job title we hold, the possessions we flaunt, the body we display, and the social circle we cultivate all contribute to a curated image, one that fuels a toxic dependence on external validation. Social approval is now driven by performance. It's not enough to live well, we must appear well. It's not enough to feel joy, we must display it. This creates a chronic anxiety, the fear of being unworthy without constant recognition. Self-esteem becomes a projection of others' judgments, and individuality turns into a threat to belonging. A study called the National Worry Audit, conducted with 2,000 adults in the UK, found that, on average, each person spends 6.5 years of their life worrying about what others think. Given that the average life expectancy in the UK is 81 years, this means nearly 8% of life is spent trying to maintain an image. What you deny submits you. What you accept transforms you. Carl Jung. As long as appearances take priority, our inner truth remains buried. And when we live as performers, we forget who we are once the curtain falls. The illusion of approval as happiness. The greatest trap in seeking approval lies in its false promise of happiness. Many believe that being accepted, praised, or admired will finally bring them joy. But this is a deceptive illusion. It confines rather than liberates. External approval might offer temporary relief, but it never lasts, because it relies on something outside our control, the perception of others. Those who live to please eventually silence their own desires. They exchange authenticity for acceptance. They mute their inner voice just to fit into expectations not their own. Over time, they lose sight of their true identity. Their life becomes a performance aimed at appearing good, correct, accepted, even when they're crumbling inside. Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you, or from holding views that others find unacceptable. Carl Jung. This isn't about defying others, but about no longer fearing their reactions. Anyone who is afraid of rejection can never be truly free. They will always walk in step with what others expect, and that kind of emotional submission comes at a high cost. It steals your freedom, peace, and sense of self. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Carl Jung. True happiness doesn't come from being liked, it comes from being whole. It emerges when we live in alignment with our values, even if that invites disapproval. Because more painful than being rejected by others is abandoning yourself, the mechanism of projection and the other's shadow. Much of the pain we feel from being judged doesn't stem from what is said, but from how we interpret it. Other people's criticism strikes deep because we treat it as if it were an ultimate truth. Yet often such remarks reveal far more about the person making them than about us. This is where one of Carl Jung's most profound psychological concepts comes into play: projection. Jung taught that when we suppress certain traits within ourselves, those aspects accumulate in what he called the shadow. Everything we deem ugly, shameful, or unacceptable is buried in this unconscious space. But just because we suppress it doesn't mean it disappears. Eventually, we project these hidden elements onto others. We condemn in others what we cannot face in ourselves. When someone attacks with rage or scorn, they may be responding to their own shadow, not to us. In those moments, it's not truly you they're reacting to, it's the part of themselves they've tried to bury. Projections transform the world into a mirror of our own unknown face. Carl Jung. Becoming aware of this changes everything. Once we understand that someone's opinion might be rooted in their internal struggles, not in reality, we begin to unburden ourselves from its weight. We stop absorbing insults as facts. We begin to recognize judgments as mirrors, not verdicts. Arthur Schopenhauer captured this truth with precision. If you encounter some particular instance of malice or stupidity, you should be careful not to let it disturb or distress you, but view it only as a contribution to your knowledge. Arthur Schopenhauer. When we realize others are also wrestling with their own inner battles, we learn not to take everything so personally. The philosophy of contempt, training in indifference. Faced with the social anxiety triggered by fear of disapproval, certain ancient philosophers chose a radical approach. Instead of avoiding contempt, they embraced it deliberately. The idea was simple yet powerful: expose oneself to ridicule as a form of mental training. It was a practice to build inner strength and break free from the chains of public opinion. One notable practitioner was Marcus Porcius Cato, a Roman senator from the 1st century BC. A devoted Stoic, Cato deliberately dressed in outdated clothing that clashed with the elite's fashion. According to Plutarch, this wasn't a plea for attention. It was a way to train himself to feel shame only for things that truly deserved it. William Irvin explains this concept in A Guide to the Good Life. One way to overcome our obsession with gaining the admiration of others is to make a conscious effort to do things that will probably earn their contempt. William Irvin. Another remarkable figure was Diogenes the Cynic. He often walked against the flow of the crowd, especially after theater performances, as a way to challenge social conformity. When mocked for it, he would say, "Aren't you ashamed of walking in the wrong direction in life and mocking me for walking backward?" Even under ridicule, Diogenes remained unfazed. His integrity was so compelling that Alexander the Great once said, "If I weren't Alexander, I would want to be Diogenes." Becoming conscious is a painful process. Carl Jung. The pain of rejection when faced with courage turns into liberation. It's not about seeking out scorn, but about no longer fearing it. Every time we choose our truth over someone else's approval, we move closer to wholeness. Gradually, other people's opinions stop being verdicts and become mere noise. Other people's opinions in perspective. To free ourselves from the constant hunger for approval, we must examine who these people are whose opinions seem to have so much control over us. Too often, we exhaust ourselves trying to impress individuals we don't even respect. We shape our lives to please eyes that, upon honest reflection, offer us little to nothing of real value. The crucial question becomes, are these individuals living lives we admire? Are they emotionally grounded, intellectually open, or morally consistent? If the answer is no, why do we care so deeply about what they think? Seneca exposes the absurdity of this dynamic in a striking statement. How foolish is the one who leaves the lecture hall overjoyed by the applause of fools. Seneca. It's a simple truth. If you don't admire someone, seeking their admiration makes no sense. Yet many continue to shape their paths according to the expectations of shallow, bitter, or underdeveloped minds. Often those who judge the harshest are the ones least in touch with themselves. Their critiques don't come from clarity, but from unresolved pain, personal frustration, and misdirected projections. Do you take pleasure in being praised by people you yourself cannot praise? Arthur Schopenhauer. Carl Jung takes this contemplation further, offering a profound reminder of what truly matters. Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but as you touch a human soul, be just another human soul. Carl Jung. As long as we fear disappointing those who remain at the surface, we'll live at the surface too. True liberation comes when we begin to see opinions through a clearer lens and choose to be guided by our inner compass rather than by applause. In the end, those who live to please everyone often lose sight of who they truly are. Building self-confidence as a path to freedom. At the root of emotional dependence lies insecurity. When we doubt our worth, we turn to others in search of reassurance that we matter. Their approval becomes the scale we use to measure our value. But this scale is unreliable and unfair. One compliment lifts us, one criticism crushes us. To achieve freedom, we must develop a foundation within ourselves. True confidence doesn't stem from vanity or arrogance. It is born through internal development, by nurturing the mind, strengthening the body, shaping the character, and following meaningful goals. When we are grounded in a sense of purpose, the power of others' opinions diminishes. Their gaze may remain, but it no longer dictates our direction. Life transforms when we stop asking, "What will they think?" and begin asking, "Does this align with what I believe?" Our compass shifts from public judgment to personal integrity. The man who does not pass through the hell of his passions also does not overcome them. Carl Jung. Facing our fears, confronting our darkness, acknowledging our vulnerabilities, these acts are what solidify the ground beneath authentic confidence. And once that foundation is built, it becomes our armor. Rejection no longer breaks us. Criticism no longer freezes us. The silence of others no longer defines us. The real antidote to the fear of being judged is living a life that makes us proud. Not a flawless life, but one lived in harmony with who we are. When we know our identity, misunderstanding no longer shakes us. because inner clarity speaks louder than any external noise. At that point, being accepted by others stops being the goal. It simply becomes a coincidence. The courage to be free. No matter how hard you try, you'll never please everyone. There will always be someone who criticizes, disapproves, or simply doesn't like you. And that's okay. True freedom begins when we accept this fact, when we realize that a meaningful life doesn't hinge on universal approval, but on inner peace. Having the courage to be free isn't about ignoring others. It's about no longer living according to their expectations. It's choosing to look inward with honesty, make deliberate decisions, and walk your path with conviction, even when there's no applause. It's embracing the fact that your journey will be different, that judgments will come, but they won't control your direction. Ultimately, no one escapes themselves by hiding among others. Carl Jung. You can spend your entire life trying to gain approval, blend in, and be accepted, or you can choose to live by your own inner truth. The second path is harder. It's lonelier at times, but it's also more genuine. To be truly free is to have the courage to be misunderstood and still remain loyal to who you are. If this message stirred something within you, share this video with someone who also struggles with the need for approval. It might be exactly what they need to hear. Subscribe to the channel for more deep reflections like this and activate the bell icon so you don't miss future content. Here, we are committed to truth, to freedom, and to awakening consciousness. Living for yourself isn't selfish, it's an act of responsibility, and it could be the first step toward a lighter, more honest, and truly authentic life.